All right, in this video, we are going to go ahead and try to finish our database application. Um, so far we have got the model, just a basic skeleton of the model set up with some fake data in there, but we're going to have to go ahead and add the code that's going to let us communicate with the database into there. The other thing that we'll have to do is to finish off the controller. In the controller, we want to implement these event handlers, handle last name box and handle search box. So let's go ahead and start on that. So in the handle last name box, that's what happens if the user presses enter while in the this text field right here. And so I'm going to change that. And all I'm going to do there is call this search button method. And you're going to need to pass along the event to that as well. Then what I want to do in the handle search button method is to go ahead and update the list, the observable list. So I'm going to call that update employee list. And that's in the model, so it needs to be model.update employee list, right? The name of the database, the model there. So update employee list. And right now it's giving me an error because that we haven't written that method yet in the model. So. And then what I'll need to do is to go to this text field here, which we're calling last name. And I'll need to get the text out of there. And then the controller is going to pass that off to this method in the model. Okay. All right. So let's go over to the model and start working on that method. So it's going to be public void update employee list. And it's going to have one parameter, which is a string, search string there. Okay, so that should if I close this out, that should have fixed this error over here. Let's save it and see if it does. Yes, okay. All right, so it's gonna fix that error here, and then we're gonna go back and implement this later. And then in the previous video, I said that this would automatically update the table view, but it actually won't do that because of the way we have this structured here. If we used properties and values, it would automatically update it. But just to keep things simple here, I didn't do that instead of introducing another thing that we haven't talked about yet. So whenever the user clicks on this button, we are going to have to redo this set items. We're going to have to reset the items in the table view. So if we had added a few more things to this employee class, we could avoid that. But so I'm just going to go ahead and add this in here. And then if you're interested in the other version, then I can put that together for you. But I'm probably not going to explicitly talk about it at this point. Okay, so just again checking that that's going to run. Okay, looks okay. All right, so now back in the database model class, and so now we're going to start getting into setting up some of the SQL commands and interfacing with the database when we do that. Okay, All right, so what I'm going to do is first off create a new observable list. Of employees. I'm going to call that new list. And what I need to do to create an observable list, a blank one, is exactly the same thing that I did in this in the constructor right there. So it's going to be fx collections dot observable array list. So that will create an observable array list called new list. And then what I'm going to do is query the database, get and put those employee objects into this array list, and then set employees equal to the new list. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna before we get started there, we have to do a couple of things. Number one, we need the JDBC driver. So what you're going to need to do is go to the link github.com/Xerial, that's XERIAL /SQLite-JDBC. Okay. That link is also in the database input output section that we talked about in my notes there. So click on download and then scroll down. This is the one we're using because they have the jar file. And then what you want to do is click on that and it will download the jar file. Let me see. I think I already have it downloaded. I do have it downloaded, but you would just click on this and save it in your downloads. All right. All right. And then what you want to do is right click on database query project and then go to build path and then add external archives. And then in your downloads folder or wherever you saved it to, click open on that and it will add that as a reference library here. Okay. The other thing that we need to do is to is that database that you created, right? We need to import it into the project. And so I'm just going to create a folder called resources as a subfolder of the top level. And then I am going to drag the database file in here to resources and make sure that copy files is collected. And so you should see your database file here. Okay. All right. So now we need to set up the connection to the database file in this update employees list. So create a new connection equals null. All right. And here I need to fix this, and so if you hover over that, you'll see import connection java.sql. You can click that, and I'm just going to go ahead and change this to asterisk so we don't have to keep doing that over and over again. Okay, and that should fix the issue there. All right, next up, a try statement. I'm just going to go with this, and it probably should be try with resources. I'm going to actually connect to our database. So that would be driver manager dot get connection. And then the string in there should be JDBC colon SQLite colon resources and then / the name of your database, which is tmpdb.db. Okay, if you have, making sure that you set it up just like I did. All right. All right. Next up, we are going to start working on the query that we want to make. String update string equals, and then the query, select, and then the fields that we want to select. All right, looking at our database, right, it was ID, last name, first name, and email. If you forget those, you're going to have to look back up at your database, right? And if you go to browse data, right, these are the names of your columns here: ID, first name, last name, email. Okay, so that's what they should be. And then then I'm going to skip to the next line. And then the name of the table where those are for us, it is employees. Right here. Remember, you can get all your tables by looking there. All right, and then where the last name is like question mark. All right, if you haven't had database management systems yet, then you might not be familiar with the SQL language, but if you aren't, then usually about half the people have taken that class by the time they get in this class. So somebody in your group probably knows how that goes. If not, then just feel free to reach out to me and we can work on getting that set up for you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and then keep going with this, and so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to create a prepared statement, and to give you another example of how to do that, remember that is it's going to be safer than just getting input directly from the user. So it's connection.prepare statement, and then the update string, right, is this query that I want to run. And remember, this is like sort of like a wildcard in there. I'm gonna put something in there later. Okay. All right, and next up, to make this act like a wildcard, right, what I'm going to do is surround the search string with %, like so. So the user is going to enter some search string, and that's going to come in here, and surround it with these %, and then it's going to put it in the prepared statement. And then finally, I'm going to execute the query. From the prepared statement, and that's going to generate a result set. Okay. All right, so that is the mechanics of doing the query. I have the results out. What I need to do next is to process those results. Okay, so I'm going to process those results using a while loop, rs.next. All right, and so that will take the result set and it will iterate over those results in there. And then what I'm going to do is add those to this new list. So new list.add. And then the way I'm going to add that, because this is an observable list of employees, I'm going to create an employee object. And to do that, I have to get the results from the results set. So I'm going to use the getString method, since all of our fields, ID, last name, first name, email, they're all string types. I'm using getString. For other data types, you would use a different method. So first is ID. So, and here inside the getString, I would just list the name of the field that's in my database again, right? You can get that by looking at these fields up here. All right, and then next comes the next comes rs.getString, and then last name. Next line, rs.getString. First name, rs.getString email. And I need to close that off. And one more. Okay, and so here again, I look at each line in the results at each line that the query returned, and I create an employee object out of that, and I add it to this list up here. Okay. All right, I need to finish this catch block. And I'm not going to do much in the catch block except print the stack trace, which is just the usual error messages, right? They get printed out when something crashes. All right, and so finally, if I am past here, right, then I am going to alter the employees observable list by setting it equal to new list. So new list contains all of the latest results from the latest query, and then I'm just going to copy that over to employees. Okay. All right, and so that should do it. Let's take a look and see what happens when I run. All right, I had those results in there from the model already, so we'll have to take those out. But now if I try to search, you can see that searches for everybody, or returns everybody who has an A in their name. If I do say IT, that will return everybody who has an IT in their name. So I'm searching for the last name in here. Okay, and so it returns all of these fields here. Let me fix that. We need to comment these things out. And then if I run it again, it starts off empty, right? And here I can search the last names for any occurrence of some expression here. All right, if I search for a blank, that's actually a search for a space, and this actually returns everybody, which is probably not a good thing here. So but anyway, that's about it. And so this is an example of how you can set up your own applications that interface with the database.